Welcome, folks, to Between the Left and a Hard Place. We are a center-left podcast, and my name is Dean Charles. I'm your host, and today we have a lot to talk about. You know, the election just happened, but look, I'm just a regular guy trying to figure things out. Wondering if there's still a way back to the middle. Is there a way to be reasonable without having to burn the whole house down, which it seems like many really want to? Is that the case? Are we going to burn the whole house down? Every election seems to reboot nobody asked for. Same cast, worse script, higher stakes. Half the country swears democracy is dying. The other half thinks it's, just in a holding pattern or something. Nobody trusts the polls anymore. The polls seem ridiculous. I don't know. I guess they were right in their predictions, but they were way off in the numbers. But that's neither here nor there. I don't know what to make of that. You have the rise of democratic socialism. New York City, in theory, I sort of understand where some of the people are coming from. They want fairness in practice. They want sort of some shared prosperity. But New York City's always been a tough place to live when you're young. I lived in New York in the 80s. I think it was more expensive then than it is now. There's metrics that state, the average person buys a house now is 38 years old and it was 30 back then. So you had more opportunity in your 20s to get to that spot where you could buy a house when you're 30, I guess. I guess that's the proper way to look at it. But I don't know that New York City is indicative of the rest of the country when it comes to that. I know a lot of people are talking about affordability, and this is a tough time with the government shutdown. People aren't getting paid. It makes it worse. There is inflation. When it comes to tariffs, we can get into this later, but, people relied on cheap shit. I always say cheap shit from China. And without cheap shit from China, prices are going to go up. And so until President Trump figures that out, we're going to have problems, because I don't think there's any way around not relying on cheap shit from China, if you get what I mean. You talk about, especially you can start with like baby stuff, little onesies that people get, and then, and you outgrow them every 3 months, when it comes to baby clothes. And, you go into Walmart and you pay a couple bucks for them, then it's not a big deal. But if, you can't get them from China, it's not going to be a couple bucks. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. We'll talk about tariffs in a little while. Right now, we're talking about, New York and Zoran Mondami and socialism and understanding why, people are looking towards socialism. But I'm sort of a person that doesn't believe in it. In fact, I would call myself having Democratic Socialists of America derangement syndrome, right? And I just don't believe in it. The fact that you talk to Democratic Socialists of America, especially the younger kids, you even ask them if they've read the Democratic Socialists of America political platform, and they haven't. So if you haven't read it, you don't understand who they are, who the DSA is. Zoran Mondami kind of follows the script. I've talked about it so many times, but the big ticket items like defund the police, let everybody out of prison, open the borders, Medicare for all have distinct problems that I don't think can really transition into something that could be positive in the United States or New York City. So we'll see what happens. My number one concern when it comes to Zoran Mondami and the Democratic Socialists of America is crime. I think crime is going to be the major factor if New York is successful. If people feel safe, I think it would give him an opportunity to maybe have some of his policies be a little successful without driving people away. But if crime instantly goes up and people are feeling unsafe, that's just going to crater everything. That's just, a recipe for disaster. So that's my opinion, what the crime rate is, if people feel safe, because the platform gives off the vibes of you just won't be safe. In my opinion, the Democratic Socialists of America political platform is kind of a racist, platform. And read it for yourself and decide for yourself. I don't want to make a decision for you. But all I know right now is that the moderate Democrats and the rest of the Democrats that don't say they belong to the Democratic Socialists of America are scared of them. If it were me, I'd be like, hey, go form your own party. I don't care that you're socialist, because I don't care they're socialist. I don't even care that Zohar Mamdani's Muslim. I care that he's a socialist. I don't think they belong in the Democratic Party. They need to form their own, platform. I mean, they have their own platform, but their own party. I don't know why the moderate Democrats don't say, hey, we're kicking you out. You can't caucus with us. I don't understand that. Why are they so scared of them? It doesn't matter if they're their own party and they can organize enough votes to win an election, then more power to them, I guess. We're going to be socialist here. But I don't believe they belong in the Democratic party. I don't get it. I don't have anything in common with them. I don't believe anything that they believe. Well, some of the things sound great on the outside. So I'll say, oh, that sounds good. Medicare for all sounds great. We should have proper health care in this country, but we don't. And I just believe the way to get there is going to be different. I don't believe in burning it all down to get there. I don't think we can do that. I think that would be worse. I don't think we'd ever get there if we burn it all down. I don't understand the moderate left's fear of the far left. It doesn't make sense to me, and they need to get over it, in my opinion. I mean, comment below and tell me what you think, because I don't get this. I want to hear what everybody else feels. If you feel we need to burn it all down, let me know. If you feel like I'm right, I want to know also. And there's a lot of other problems that we have to face. I think, AI is going to be a huge problem. The smartest people in the world went in front of Congress and said, AI is going to be a problem. It needs to be regulated worldwide. This is going to be a big problem. What did they do? Like Congress has always done, nothing. They've done nothing. So now all these guys are part of the problem now, probably. They just want to make money off their AI. They're pumping billions, if not trillions, into AI. And where do we go next with that? Because I think in the next couple of years, you're going to have any ragtag, organization or country that wants to, build a weapon of mass destruction or even a nuclear bomb is going to be able to. In the advent of AI, I think that's a possibility. Chemical weapons, biological weapons. AI is going to give people the information to be able to not only build it, but deliver it. And I think that's sooner than later. What kind of problems is that going to cause? Are we going to have a world to live in? Because we may not. That's my opinion. I don't see a way around that. I mean, it's possible that AI could, have a positive effect. I mean, that's still a possibility, and a lot of people believe that. But I'm not sure if the negatives don't outweigh the positives right now, unless somebody gets control. I don't know if that's possible either. So the real monster could be AI. And, you have a big social media mirage in this country that AI is going to be part of or is part of already. Number one, all the kids that are socialists, they have this image of everybody's rich except for me, mentality. I can see why that would happen. It's a big distortion field as far as I'm concerned. On social media, it looks like all these content creators are living these perfect lives filled with, all this excitement and trips and smiles and brand deals and whatever, everything that comes along with it. And they're making millions, if not billions of dollars. And then there's little old me watching this, and they want me to pay them, and I'm not making anything, and I'm broke. And that's kind of what you're led to believe on the internet. Everybody buys it. Everybody buys into it. So you start believing everyone else is rich, successful, happy, except me or us. It's the illusion of prosperity without any payback at all, without any paycheck, payback, paycheck, whatever you want to call it. Meanwhile, life seems to be getting harder. And I know there's differences in the way kids are growing up right now. Generations before that seem to have it better than the generation that's in their 20s now. People are saying, I hear it all the time on all the different news organizations and the podcasts, that this is the first generation that doesn't seem to have a better outlook than their parents had in this country, in the United States of America. And, of course, that's a problem. So they're turning to socialism. And we'll see what happens with that. Like I said, I've expressed my doubts with that. I'd like to take a more pragmatic view. Like I said, I don't think burning the house down is the right thing to do. But if that's what people choose to do, I don't know any way around it. But the other problem on the internet is the outrage economy. Clicks, chaos. And it pays better than honesty is the problem. you have all the extreme podcasters who, say extreme things, and you can't tell the truth from dishonesty, what's true and what's false. You just can't tell the difference, but that gets clicks and that gets people hooked in. Why do you think that is? If you listen to someone on the extremes, and I think you understand who's on the extremes, I hope you do. How do you feel about it? Do you believe it, or is it just entertainment? I can't figure it out, but people start to really believe it, and it brings on a lot of hatred. And right now, anti-Semitism seems to be the play of the day for the extremes. So it's like, oh yeah, let's bag on the Jews and Israel and whatever, and it seems to get a lot of clicks and outrage. When there's, and after the Jews, who's next? Say all the Jews leave, or you kill all the Jews, whatever. There'll just be somebody next if you don't stop it now. What do you think is going to happen? You think it's just, not going to come after you? I don't understand. At some point, if it just keeps going and people keep falling into that trap, there's going to be a point where they have to go on to the next thing. I don't understand the outrage economy, the clicks and the algorithms and, getting ahead of the algorithms. I don't know. It just causes hate and divide in this country, especially, but it seems like around the world, maybe hate and divide everywhere. So how's that going to fit in with AI, where people are going to be able to create ways to, create weapons of mass destruction at a much faster and easier rate very soon? You're building an outrage economy and you're giving people access to, extremely dangerous weapons. What do you think is going to happen? Seriously, tell me. Write in the comments. Let's talk about it. What you think is going to happen? Because I'm a little miffed. And then on the other end, you have the Supreme Court is right now deciding on a case where is Trump allowed to just impose whatever tariffs he wants, or is it the responsibility of Congress? If they rule in favor of President Trump, it paves the way for the president really expanding the power of the presidency, which many fear, including me. And there's a lot of things that I agree with President Trump on, but I am a Democrat, and I'm a center-left Democrat, and for various reasons that I've explained before. But it paves the way for an extreme amount of power to the presidency when there's supposed to be a lot of checks and balances. And the Constitution is based on checks and balances. And I don't know how anybody in the middle could agree if the Supreme Court rules in favor of President Trump on this one. I don't think he should have that kind of unmitigated power. So we'll see what happens. I mean, that's coming soon. And that's just going to create more divide if they rule in favor of President Trump. And the Republicans and the Democrats and the Democratic Socialists of America are looking at more extreme divisions. I don't know what to think, so please help me out and write in comments and tell me what you think. Then you have, a small flicker of hope, some sanity, where the moderate Democrats, yes, it's for governors, were elected in New Jersey and Virginia. I've always known Abigail Spanberger to be a moderate Democrat, pretty pragmatic, sensible, the kind of person that I would back for sure. And that, a center-left Democrat that doesn't want to burn the house down, but find, realistic and pragmatic answers and solutions to, some of today's most pressing problems. And I don't know a lot about Mikey Sherrill. I know that she's friends with Abigail Spanberger, and I hope that's where she stands, because we need a sense of pragmatism and talking to each other and, getting along with both sides of the aisle. And I would hope that the Republicans would think about electing moderate Republicans as well, and not going for, the extreme, left-wing Republicans also. I know that the Democrats do have many moderates in their caucus, but they're forced to do anything Trump says, or they'll feel like they'll be primaried. I don't know. I hope they can break out of that themselves, because I personally feel that the way back to the middle is the only way we can be successful, be functional again in this country, and provide a future. And the future is really important. Like, let's take New York City, because it's the largest city in America. And, and the world looks at New York City, the financial center of the world, home of the United Nations, and what it was culturally and economically, what it's been for years and years and years. It's a really old city. I mean, it's very old. It needs to be moved into the current times, into the future. And the future is in one respect, extremely bright. The technology that could be afforded is incredible, but somebody's got to move to there, and it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be expensive to move New York into the future. Number one, it could use a paint job. The last time I was in New York, which wasn't that long ago, it's so old. It's so run down, especially if you fly into one of the airports, JFK or LaGuardia, and you drive through, if you're going, and it doesn't matter if you're going north or south or into the city or to one of the boroughs, is you see really old, beat up parts of town that you don't even know how people can live there. That's my opinion. I'm like, how do people still live here? It's so old and so run down. I guess it's where you grew up, so maybe it's all you know. But New York needs to be moved into the future. Who can do that? As does the rest of the country. But New York needs to be the leader. Where's the next modern city going to be developed in the United States? I don't know where that's going to be, but it hasn't happened yet. There's cities that are growing in Texas and Florida and other states too. There's growing cities. But right now with AI, where's the next big growing city? Could it be New York? Could it be Los Angeles? Because Los Angeles is also a really old town. Hasn't changed since I, first moved there in the 80s, in the late 80s. I lived in New York City in the mid 80s. I moved to LA in the late 80s. And both of them look the same. They haven't changed. I mean, there's some regentrification in some areas, but for the most part, they look the same. Both of them could use a paint job. The whole East Coast could use a paint job, as far as I'm concerned. Can we fight? Is there a real war that we're not looking at? AI, the left-right conspiracy theories that seem to grab the attention of everybody. Where are we going? What are we going to do? Please let me know what you think about all this stuff that I'm talking about. Are we just going to let algorithms decide what we see, what we believe, and who you think the enemy is? Is that where we're going? Because I don't think has a very good ending. I'm not sure what the ending will look like in that scenario, but I don't think it's good. Do you think it's good? What do you think about the possibilities of that? So how do we change that? What do we do? I'm trying to think of solutions myself. I'm just a little guy. I'm not a politician. I'm just here talking on a little tiny podcast, hoping get people to start thinking about this stuff. Because I don't understand what people are thinking about. I mean, I understand what they see and how they're thinking when they see that. I don't know how it's going to end. I don't know if people are smart enough to say, hey, this is just for entertainment. It's fiction. Let's laugh about it. Or, who's going to take it to heart? People do take it to heart, because we can see with the assassinations that's happened and the attempted assassinations in the past. I can go on and on about this stuff. So, yeah, I'm just a regular guy stuck between the left and hard place, to be honest with you. That's why I named it that, trying to figure out if there's still a middle worth fighting for and saving. And, if there is, how do we get back there? Do you know how we get back there? I'm not sure. Anyway, leave your comments. Let's hope the algorithm doesn't drive us off a cliff. The algorithms don't drive us off a cliff. Right now it seems like we're trying to decide who's going to drive the car off the cliff. But let me know what you think. Comment, like, all that stuff. And please let me know. So I appreciate it. Thank you. And have a good day.